Okay, here's a quick overview of LapSync, the current version with the UI changes. Let's go over some basics first. Basically, under the edit options, you get really you just need to set up the COM port and the system type. There's TrackMate, there's iLapse. I'm working on support for UDP, so you can have more than one PC recording data. Then you set up pretty much the start type. There's you can do tone or gate, which of course gate would be your staggered start. Everybody's timer will start at the gate. And then basically really your race type. You have a timed race, which is, you know, you have so many seconds to complete as many laps as you can. Or you have a lap race. A lap race is how many laps you have to complete before the end of the race and who completes them the fastest. And then you have ranking type, which, you know, you could say total time, number of laps, the best lap, whoever has the best lap is the winner, so on and so forth. When the race type is time, you can have two options. So normally you select number of laps and then total time. I've added a countdown type where it's random, which is my favorite, fixed, and then none. Then you have other options such as the minimum lap time, the maximum lap time, the maximum speed. That really only affects the average. Time between races, so that way if you're running the event timer, it will track, it'll leave that many minutes between the start of the next race. Then there's the auto submit MultiGP points. So if it's a MultiGP race, at the end of each race when you click finish, it'll auto submit the points to MultiGP based on that round's results. This can turn that on and off. They use Brian Morse's timer for practice. That's basically a 2.5 minute loop that he created. Then of course you got like the track length, the fastest group laps. That's really to just show, you know, you can put any number in there and there's places where it shows that number of laps and your fastest for that heat. The number of rounds and the slot type, those are pretty much going to come, if you're importing the race from MultiGP, those are going to come from MultiGP. Use best, so you can say use the best 2 out of 3 or whatever, and enter 0 to use all. And as you can see, you hover over these and they give you a little tooltip on kind of explaining on what they are. Anyway, the main thing once you start LapSync is you select the COM port and the system type. Once you've selected the COM port and the system type, you can click OK. And then this button here closes and opens the COM port. So I'm going to close it and then reopen it. And you can see down here the TrackMate message counter. So I'm using the TrackMate system, and TrackMate sends a heartbeat every second. And supposedly iLapse does this too. I just haven't figured out what the commands are to tell it to do that. But anyway, so you get a heartbeat, and this lets you know that you're getting packets from the timing system. If you should get bad data, for example, I use the wireless system. If you should get bad data, you'll get this pop up on the screen. This is keeps track of how many bad packets you get. And basically how that works is this heartbeat message is sent every second, and in that heartbeat it counts up. So you can see right now it's 9, now it went to 10. Well, I keep track of that number, and if for some reason it skips a number, I record that. And so I record how many times it skips. And as you can see, it says 1, but that's because I had the system started and then unplugged it and restarted it, so it started back over at 1, and so it thought that was a bad packet because it recycled and started at 1 again. It didn't continue on. So anyway, that's how that works. And once you open this and got it set up with that, with the COM port open and getting data, pretty much you're ready to start reading. I mean, all you got to do is plug in a transponder, which I'm going to do here, and run it past the gate.
Unknown racer has passed the gate.
And then you can see this one isn't registered in the system. And so here's the new UI. So you have position, how good their reads are. This is the seat number based on the slot type. This is the frequency, and you can see it's not selected. And this is the transponder number. This will be their name and their username. Total laps completed. This little number is how many laps the system actually counted. The lap time, the speed, average, that person's clock. Of course, if they're all starting on the tone, every clock will be the same, except for the finish time, but it'll all start at the same time. This is your pace based on your current average time, you know, what you can complete in the time allotted. So, for example, if you're doing a lap-based race and you have 5 laps to do, it'll say 5 and then an average time of how long it's going to take you to reach that 5 laps. If it's a timed race, it'll say 2 minutes, for example, and how many laps based on your average that you can finish in that 2 minutes. And here's your fastest lap. And then, like I was showing in the options, that fastest lap group, this will be that number. Right now it was a 3, so it'll show 3 and then the fastest 3 laps. And then this shows behind the leader how far you are, number of seconds and how many laps. This is your estimated standings in the overall qualifiers based on how you're doing in this heat. Of course, this is just the practice screen because we haven't loaded any race yet. But anyway, so some other features here that I've added is you can right click on the transponder and enter a new transponder. And this doesn't overwrite the one there, it adds to it. So this is how you would add a transponder. Then you can also right click on the frequency and set the frequency. So see, I just changed it to E2, so that was slot 1, or I'm sorry, seat 1 for this type of slot that's set up. Then you can also right click on the name and say, well, this transponder guy is actually James. So it shows that he's transponder now, but I want it to be James. And it says, hey, you've chosen to move this transponder and the data associated with it to James. And that this entry will be removed. Do you want to continue? So I say yes, and now it says James. And because this is a practice round, it still shows in the list because he was added as a pilot, that transponder was. Anyway, so the standings currently have a filter here: practice, qualifier, and mains. A normal race is going to show up as a qualifier. You put that on qualifier and it'll show the standings based on your races. But anyway, and then the mains are based on mains, and that's for a future enhancement. Right now it doesn't do anything because there is no mains. So basically you're going to use qualifier. So now let's import a race from MultiGP. So it says, are you sure you want to import it? This will erase the current pilot class and race info. So be forewarned. This is telling you that it's going to erase the data in the system when you import from MultiGP. So you put in your username, the password, the race ID, and hit get. It imports. It shows me that the following pilots don't have a current transponder set. So in the aircraft that they registered for the race, they didn't put in a scannable ID. So I could either go back, and the easiest way really is to have these pilots go into their aircraft and put that scannable ID in, and then just do another import. So you can see this is the standings. They are separated by race that you've set up in MultiGP, and each separation is a color. So you can see these three are blue, these three are purple, and then this last one is a pinkish color. The colors are randomly chosen, and they're grouped together based on what race they're in, what race type. So in LapSync, that shows up as a class. So if we say the first round, the first class, which is the first race I set up for this race in MultiGP, you can see when I selected it, these first three turned yellow because they're in this heat. If I select the next one, these two guys are in this heat, so they turned yellow. And then, of course, the last one, I'm in that heat, so I turned yellow down here. So I'm going to start this race. I've got the format set up for a 60-second timed race, so it's as many laps as you can do in 60 seconds. And then I've got it set for a tone start, so everybody's clock is on the same, will start at the same time. And I also have the start type set to immediate, so as soon as I click start, the clock is going to start. So before I go, I'm going to have me go by the gate, and I get a good read. So now I'm ready to go. You don't have to do that, but you can. So now let's start the race.
1 minute.
And so it started, and you can see everybody's clock has started. So now I'm going to go by again.
Vaporware.
So you can see I got an 8-second lap. Or I'm sorry, that was my time to gate. The first time is the time to gate. So now the clock is counting up. This is my lap clock. So when I go by again,
30 seconds.
Leader Vaporware lap 120.
see now it showed that I got a 21-second lap, and that's my fastest lap because it's green. This is the time to gate because it's purple, and my lap counter is counting down
15,
from
14,
my average time.
13, 12, 11, 10, 9,
And based on my
8,
pace, I can complete
7,
2 laps.
6, 5, 4,
And
3,
so I'm over my time
2,
now. See, so I
1.
went over the average, and
Time's
now
up.
it's turned
Complete
red.
current lap.
So now I finish,
Winner Vaporware 2 laps.
and see,
Vaporware has already completed the race.
now
and should
actually,
really
I
stop.
guess it counted me twice. But anyway, the point is that you can see I'm done, and that all my times appear to be good by the green check mark. And the laps will show up across here, as many laps as you do. And like I said earlier, the purple one is how the time from the start tone to the time I got to the gate. Then the green one is the fastest lap, and then this one is just a normal lap read. So if I was running this as a staggered start, where everybody's time started at the gate, I wouldn't get this purple number because my timer would start and it would be 0, so it doesn't show. The standings show over here based on the current race. So in the first heat, I got first place with 2 laps at 63 seconds, 63.236. So you can see over here, this is my total time. This is the points I earned, which being as this is a timed race, you get 1 point per lap. The number of laps adjusted, and then the number of laps counted. So it's got me in first place, and everybody else is still in A. These two guys didn't get any laps, so they're not showing up as having any position. But now let's say somebody comes up to me and say, hey, Justin, he got, 3 laps, but it didn't read him. So I can go here and adjust him to 3 laps. So now you can see that it'll say Justin doesn't have any time because it didn't register any time, but he got 3 points because he got 3 laps adjusted and 0 laps counted. So if he was to get 2 laps, it would still put me ahead of him because he has no time. So those with time take preference over those without time. This is the way the current standing works. There's also a function to say if this was an errored lap and it missed me twice, I could split this lap. I right click on it and I can click split, and it'll create 2 laps. It'll split it in half and create 2 laps. Or I can just delete this one altogether. Okay, so let's move to this next race, which is a separate class. And I'm going to start this one.
Beaupre. Wyatt Herb.
And you see this is their time to gate. And this counts up again to the first lap. Then once you get that first lap, you have an average and it starts counting based on the average.
Leader Beaupre lap 120.758. Wyatt Herb lap 1 at
30
21.646.
And you can see based on their pace, this is how they're going to adjust. And this is, he moved up 2 from 3rd. And he moved up, oh, it's moved. He moved up from 4th
15,
to 3rd,
14,
which is
13,
+1 now.
12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's
Leader
up.
Beaupre
Complete
lap
current lap.
224.928. Wyatt Herb lap 2 at 23.784. Winner Wyatt Herb 3 laps. Beaupre 3 laps finished second.
So in the standings, you can see that Wyatt is up +1 from 0 place. And Justin, in this race, he moved to 2nd place from 0. That moved me overall from 1st to 3rd, which made me -2. Then Justin in the other race, in the other class, moved from 1st to, from 2nd to 4th, which made him -2. So the point is that the standings will show based on the current results. This number here shows the standings change based on this heat alone. So for example, you can see that Michael in this heat started it with a 0 and now he's 1st. Justin started with a 0, now he's 2nd. So if we go back to this heat and look, James was a 0 and now he's 1st. These other two were 0 and they're still 0. So something else to note is that you can use the number keys that correspond to a seat to register laps. So for example, I'm in seat 2, so if I hit the 2 key, that's the same as a transponder read. So there, it just assumed I passed the gate because I hit the key number 2. That'll work during races as well to register laps. So if you've got somebody calling out a number, when they go through a gate, you can hit that key based on that user so you can get lap times for that person. Of course, they're not going to be as accurate, but I guess that's better than nothing. Then another thing you can do is, say if you have 2 pilots or a transponder read like this that shows up, you can also, like I showed you in the practice round, by right clicking on a user's name, you can also just drag that user and it works the same way. So I can drag me down here and it'll say, hey, you want to move James's to this transponder entry, or I can move the transponder entry up to James. And that adds that transponder number to me. Then also you can drag from the standings. Say you create a new round in a heat, you can drag from the standings over here and it'll add those pilots. Of course, all my pilots are already in these heats, so I can't do that. Being able to drag from the standings over to the heat is a way to manually build main events, and is something that I'm working on for a future release. So anyway, I hope that gives you an idea how LapSync works. If you have any questions, let me know. Just hit me up, and I'll be happy to help you out if I can. Thanks, guys.